Welcome to this call. So, if you have found this video, I am going to be sharing with you how you can create vibrant health within your body. And before we can get to that, I'm going to share with you what exactly creates illness or dis-ease within the body. Let me start by sharing my screen. So, if the algorithm gods have brought you this video is going to really help you to understand what might be going on with your body. I am Julie. I'm a regenerative health practitioner and a holistic nutritionist. And what I like to focus on is helping people to uncover the root cause of dis-ease within their body and how they can elevate their health, their well-being, so that they can create the best health and the best life possible. So, if you haven't seen my videos before, I am online in the health and wellness space. I'm a practitioner, I'm a regenerative health practitioner and a holistic nutritionist. But before I started doing all this, I was in the yoga world and the film world. And it was really a diagnosis of hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's and my own frustration with not being able to get my health back on track that got me interested in actually learning about what truly causes illness within the body and what are the tools that are necessary to help create overall health and well-being. So in my mind, health really begins at the cell level. And if we focus on getting our cells healthy, then the body will be healthy. So when I was dealing with hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's, I dealt with a whole slew of issues that were related to that diagnosis. And this diagnosis really came about after a really, really traumatizing time in my life. In September of 2012, my husband passed away very suddenly from a heart attack. And it was completely unexpected. And needless to say, it blindsided me and put my health in such a negative tailspin that about a year and a half after that, I ended up getting this diagnosis of hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's. And of course, I did the conventional thing, which is I went to the doctor. The doctor diagnosed me and recommended medication. And I didn't actually know that there was another option. So I took the medications. I was on multiple medications. I took the medications thinking and hoping that I was going to get back to being my usual self. And that didn't happen at all. In fact, I got sicker and sicker. I started to feel worse and worse and worse. And it also didn't help that I was going through this extremely emotionally traumatizing and painful event of losing a loved one, losing my partner, somebody that I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with, and having to really navigate life, in a way that I wasn't expecting. And so I was on the medications, but when it became very, very clear that I wasn't going to be able to start to feel like myself again, I started going to different doctors, different types of practitioners. I went to homeopaths, I went to multiple different kinds of naturopaths. I tried all kinds of different holistic treatments and so many different supplements. I wasted a lot of time, a lot of money, and started to feel very, very frustrated until one day I had this insight that I really needed to actually understand how the body works so that I could actually heal myself. So that was my first intention. My other intention was to try to understand more deeply what happened to my husband and to see if had I had this information, could there be any possibility of helping someone like him? And in the years, since his passing, as I've learned to understand and learned more and more about what causes illness and dis-ease within the body, I know unequivocally that if he were standing in front of me today with the symptoms that he had back then, I do have the tools to help someone like him. So unfortunately, I will never get that chance of helping him, but I do have the opportunity to share this information with many, many people and hopefully encourage them to apply this knowledge to their own health and well-being so that they can enjoy vibrant health. So I went with dealing with all of these symptoms. And as I started to learn about nutrition and holistic healing, I stumbled into regenerative health. and stumbled into a protocol that addressed diet, gut health, parasites, heavy metals, and the quality of nutrients going into my body. And I committed myself to doing this protocol for several months. I did it for 6 months straight. And by the end of the 6 months, I was off the meds. All of my mood imbalances were gone. I wasn't dealing with depression or anxiety. I wasn't dealing with any more chronic aches and pains in my body. And so much so that I have now been medication free for 5 years and released a lot of weight, released all the weight that I put on. And I always like to jokingly tell my friends that I'm in the biohacking and the reverse aging phase of my life because I feel so good. In fact, I feel a lot better today than even before I was diagnosed. If I think back to when my husband was still alive and I was like, what I thought was healthy for me back then, I feel better now in my body than I did back then in, say, 2011, beginning of 2012. So, my focus is really to educate people on what causes dis-ease within the body, what are the root causes, and rather than trying to put band-aids on things, like really address the root causes so that we can allow the body to heal itself. No one can heal you. Only your body can heal itself. But in order for your body to heal itself, you have to give it the proper tools. You can't be eating processed foods, putting lots of chemicals into your body, not sleeping, not exercising, and thinking that your body's going to be healthy. Like, that's not possible. Dr. Alan Goldhammer from True North Health Center, he always says health comes from health promoting habits. And if you believe the lie that a lot of people believe that you can just do whatever to your body and somehow your body will just magically take care of the problems, or if you believe the lie that medication can heal you, then this video is probably not for you, but if you are someone who wants to be empowered in your health choices, if you want to be empowered and really understand how to take care of your body, what true cause healing looks like, and how you can support your body to help health and well-being, then you're in the right spot. So from my perspective, in terms of what I've learned, there's really only three things that lead to chronic illness within the body. 95% of illness is connected to this. So it is chemical and heavy metal toxicity, genetic predispositions, and acidic diet and lifestyle. So when I was dealing with hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's, no doctor that I worked with and none of the naturopaths I worked with really asked me about my diet or really asked me about what kind of chemicals and metals I was exposed to. If I went to an MD, they usually gave me pharmaceuticals. If I went to a naturopath, they gave me different kinds of supplements. And no matter what I took, I didn't actually feel any better. And it's important to understand that if you've been doing something for an extended period of time, no matter who has given it to you, whether it's a doctor or a naturopath or a homeopath or a functional medicine doctor, if you've been spending all this time, this money, this effort doing a protocol and you're not feeling any different within three months, then it's the wrong protocol. You need to move on. You need to try to find something else in terms of really addressing what's going on. And it's important to understand that there are 2,000 chemicals that are approved every single year for use in different products, and none of them are tested for safety. And the thing that nobody really thinks about that deeply is that it's impossible to test what happens in the human body when someone takes all of these different types of chemicals and it becomes this toxic soup within your body. So you're breathing in chemicals. There's chemicals in your food, in your water, in your clothing, in your personal care products for women, for makeup, and what you're putting on your skin. All of this stuff absorbs into your body and it puts a high toxic load on your liver, on your gut. Your lymph system has to deal with all of these chemicals, and it creates a lot of stress on your system, right? So like I said, 95% of illness is related to dis-ease within the body. And even if you have genetic predispositions to certain types of illnesses, if you are willing to address your diet and your lifestyle, you can upregulate Healthy genes downregulate unhealthy genes. And so it is really, really important to keep this phrase in mind. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So the more you can take care of yourself and really prioritize your overall health and well-being, the better it's going to be for you. And unfortunately, we live in a culture that really lies to us about what health is and how to create health. And so, in this video, I really hope that you start to understand what could be some of the possible reasons that you may be struggling with a chronic health issue, whether it's an autoimmune condition or gut issues or, you know, infertility, whatever the issue is, if you start to really think about what your body has been exposed to over the course of your life, then it'll become a lot clearer. So, poor quality nutrition and poor quality hydration is something that most people are struggling with. And if we can clean up the diet and get proper hydration into the body and start to detox the body of the chemical toxic load it's been dealing with since before you were born, then that's going to definitely help your body to get on the right track. And then, of course, it's very, very important to look at the quality of what you're putting into your body. Like if you're eating processed foods, and frankenfoods, it's time to eliminate all that stuff from your diet because it's fake and your body doesn't know what to do with it. Really, really important to eat as organic as possible. I have a really good micronutrient dense regenerative source for my foods that I utilize on a daily basis, and this is something that I help all my clients with as well, because when you're putting GMOs into your body, from your body standpoint, it doesn't know what that information is. It can't process GMOs properly. So it is really, really important to remember this phrase: the quality of food you eat equals the quality of life you live. So if you're eating fast food, processed food, fake food, you're not going to exactly live a vibrant life. So it is so, so important to upgrade the quality of your nutrition, the quality of your hydration, become mindful of EMFs, start to reduce your exposure to EMFs. I work online, I'm always on my devices, so I wear EMF protection 24/7. A lot of times when people think EMFs, they just think of Wi-Fi signals and 5G towers, and that's part of where you're getting EMF exposure, but you also get EMF exposure from any electronic devices and in your home, like all of the wiring in your home that also exposes you to EMF. So it's important to go a level and a layer deeper to really understand what are all the inputs that are affecting your health in a negative way. And now, how can you change those things and put things in place that are going to help your body to create better health and to reduce its exposure to things that are harmful. So, chemicals is huge, right? This is something that all of us have been told, well, it's not a big deal. I think a lot of people make the incorrect assumption when they walk into a grocery store, a convenience store, a gas station, a drugstore, a pharmacy, and they think, well, I'm allowed to buy it or I'm able to buy it, so it must be okay for me, right? And that is completely wrong. Just because it's for sale in a store or even online doesn't mean it's safe for you to use, doesn't mean it doesn't have lots of toxic chemicals that are wreaking havoc on your system. And so it is really, really important to become mindful of what you're putting into your body. And my number one rule is if you have to read a label and you cannot pronounce what it is, what's on the label, then you probably should not be putting it into your body. You know, it's going to create havoc for your liver. So, keeping in mind that pharmaceuticals are chemicals. They're petrochemicals, and certain medical treatments like chemo, radiation, that also creates a toxic load in the body, especially with chemo. That's a high, high toxic load. Getting educated about the heavy metals that you're exposed to in food, and if you have like those old fillings, I still haven't removed all my fillings. I'm in process of doing that, and I know I'm going to need to do a deeper detox once I get all of these old fillings out. just pharmaceuticals. There can be metals in pharmaceuticals that most people don't think about. So, getting mindful of all of the ways that your body is dealing with stress, physical, mental, emotional, chemical stress. If you are somebody who's gone through a lot of trauma, this is unfortunately many people's stories. So it is really, really important that on a subconscious level and sometimes on a conscious level, this can play a factor in your overall health and well-being. And for most people, I would say that their whole body is completely overwhelmed with toxicity. And especially when people are carrying a lot of excess weight, that is literally toxicity and waste that has built up in their system. Most homes have mold. So, take a look around and see whether or not there's any exposure to mold, or even if you're not in an environment right now where you're exposed to mold, if you've been exposed to mold and you did not detox your system after the exposure, that's something that you want to be paying attention to. If you've had plastic surgery or you deal with any kind of fillers, become aware that that is also creating a toxic load on your body. And of course, single-use plastics or plastics in general in food and water and in any products, most people are consuming about a credit card size worth of microplastics every single week. And this is happening, like, let's say you go to Starbucks and you get your Starbucks takeout cup with your hot beverage in it. The inside of that cup is lined with plastic. And when you put heat with plastic, some of that plastic melts and you're drinking it and you're putting it into your body. If you do takeout of hot food, it's always in plastic containers. If you store food in plastic, all of these things, if you heat your food, reheat your food in microwaves in plastic, all of that stuff gets into the food. And in fact, there's no reason to be microwaving your food, because if you microwave your food, you're literally nuking out whatever little nutrition there is in that food. You're completely destroying the nutrients. So I personally don't use a microwave. If you're going to reheat food, use a pot, put it on a stove, do it that way. You're going to be better off for it. And of course, becoming aware of all of these petrochemicals that are present in makeup and skincare products, in medications, they create a toxic load on the body. And so, really, the more mindful you can be of where the toxic load is coming from, the more you can start to formulate a plan of how to get this stuff out of your body. So, our body is telling us through the symptoms that we experience what is going on. So if you're struggling with your energy, with your mood, with weight, with aches and pains within your body, this is your body talking to you. And generally, it's telling you there's a high toxic load, probably not enough nutrients. And on top of that, the lymph system is backing up. Maybe the kidneys aren't filtering properly. And so that's going to create all of this stress and imbalance within your body. Gut health is also very, very important. So all illness, all disease begins in the gut. And so all of these processed foods, frankenfoods, processed sugars, alcohol, dairy, antibiotics, all of these things create havoc for your gut. And so if your goal is to get your health back on track, you have to get your gut health back on track. And I am not talking about taking a probiotic. I'm talking about changing your diet, addressing your gut health, sealing up the tight junctions of your gut, because all of us are exposed to glyphosate, which leads to leaky gut. And if you've had pharmaceuticals or if you consume alcohol, that also contributes to leaky gut. So it is really, really important to seal up the tight junctions of the gut so everything that's in the gut remains in the gut and doesn't create this havoc in your system where you've got in leaky gut. What happens is some of the contents of your gut start to spill into the rest of your body, and they can settle into different tissues. And that's when we have this autoimmune response. We've had this uptick of autoimmune conditions, autism, infertility, certain cancers, since there has been more and more glyphosate released into the environment. And so some of the part of the work that I do is really focused on improving the quality of gut health and also getting the glyphosate out of your body, getting it out of your foods, and giving your body the tools that it needs to recover. So many people are diagnosed with illnesses and dis-ease, and it's highly normalized, but it's not normal. For me, I think it's very interesting that we live in these times where more people are sick than healthy. To find a truly healthy human is rare indeed. It's virtually unheard of. And so, most of the time, when people are reaching out to me, they're dealing with multiple chronic health issues and usually two, three, sometimes even four different types of autoimmune conditions, or an autoimmune condition and gut issues. And none of this stuff is normal, and we need to stop normalizing it and really focus on addressing root causes. So our body is always talking to us. It's telling us what's going on, and it gives us signs when it's time to detox, right? So I've mentioned this before, but if you're dealing with hormone disruption or issues with losing weight, excess weight in the body is simply waste and toxicity. So if we focus on reducing the toxicity coming into the body and getting rid of the toxicity that's built up in the body and alkalizing the body through our diet, your body will start to release weight automatically. It's not uncommon. Sometimes when I work with people, especially if somebody has a lot of excess weight on their body. Sometimes in the first, like I've had clients who've released like 10 pounds in under 2 weeks. And that 10 pounds was just inflammation. It was inflammation and toxicity. And so that's how quickly the body can start to really work on healing itself when we alkalize the body and start working on detox. So all of these symptoms that you see here, none of these are normal, and these are all signs that it's time to detox. Oftentimes, a lot of these symptoms are also connected to parasites. And what happens in terms of parasites is everybody gets parasites, but especially if your diet is very, very acidic and you're eating foods that have parasites in them, of course, the parasites are going to come into your body, and they are going to settle in there because they've got a nice environment to hang out in. And if you don't make a concerted effort to actually work on getting rid of them, then they're just going to stay, right? So I do recommend that everyone do 2 to 3 parasite cleanses a year. And if you're dealing with some kind of chronic health issue like an autoimmune condition or diabetes or cancer, you definitely want to be doing some deep, deep parasite cleansing and allowing your body to restore health and well-being. And then once that happens, you get into regular maintenance and doing parasite cleanses 2 to 3 times a year. So, the unfortunate reality is we are born into this world. And when we come into this world, we've already been exposed to hundreds of different chemicals. And a lot of the money that is spent on health is really on disease management. It's not about getting anybody healthy whatsoever. There's about $3.5 trillion that are spent on disease management. And it's great because as taxpayers, we get to fund the healthcare system, but it doesn't actually do us any good, right? Um, we have a 50% cancer rate now in the US. 1 in 36 kids have autism, and that number is set to rise to 1 in 3. So just imagine when we're in a situation, and hopefully this gets diverted, but when we're in a situation where the autism rate is 1 in 3, that is so many families that are going to need support, not to mention the education system, the healthcare system. It is not a good situation for us to be moving towards. So it is so, so important to start to address root causes. Most of the population, 40% of the population, have fatty liver, and that's not connected to drinking, it's connected to poor diet. 10% of kids have fatty liver. And almost 50 of our kids now have some kind of chronic health issue, which is not good, right? And 75% of our population is either overweight or obese. And so When we have this much toxicity in the body, poor diet, lack of movement, stress, all of EMFs, radiation, all this stuff that's like adding up, it creates so much chaos within the body, a backed up lymph system, kidney issues, gut issues, diagnoses of all kinds. So it is really important to understand that at our core, our body is a community. It is a community of 75 trillion cells, two fluids, blood and lymph. Our blood is responsible for bringing oxygen and nutrients to our cells. Our lymph is responsible for taking out the trash. And those are the things that have to happen. Now, when our lymph system is not functioning properly, then that starts to back up. And that's usually when we start to feel symptoms. Now, interestingly, blood only makes up 20% of the fluids in our body. 80% of the fluid in our body is lymph. So, taking out the trash is far more important than even feeding the cells. And sometimes I have people come to me for sessions, and they've gone to a doctor, they've had blood work done, and their blood work comes back normal, but they feel like garbage. So what happens is when your lymph system starts to back up, that's when you start to feel symptoms. And it may not have backed up to the point where your blood is affected, but you start to feel the imbalance. And it's good that it's not showing up in the blood. If you're experiencing symptoms but your blood work is normal, it's actually a better state to be in, because that means that your body is not as far gone. If it starts to show up in your blood, and then the worst case scenario is you have a diagnosis, that's like a five-alarm fire in your body. Now we have to work really, really hard to help detox your body so that your body can start to regenerate itself. So all I'm saying is, when you start to feel symptoms in your body, don't ignore them. Take them seriously. Start addressing the root causes by changing your diet, changing your lifestyle, reducing the toxic load, detoxing the toxins out of your body, addressing the parasites and the heavy metals, so that you can start to feel better, and so that you don't have some kind of diagnosis. Remember, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, right? And so a lot of the stuff that I'm sharing with you, maybe your doctor's never mentioned it. Maybe you've worked with holistic practitioners that haven't really talked to you about looking at the body in this way and looking at the lymph system. In fact, I went all the way I went all the way through nutrition school, and it was the lymph system was really not emphasized the same way that it is in regenerative health. In regenerative health, we focus a lot on the lymph system and the kidneys and gut and liver. And when those things are out of balance, we know it is so, so important to restore that balance if the goal is to actually allow the body to heal itself, right? So detox in order to regenerate, right? I'm a big believer that you need to be detoxing daily, nourishing your body properly on a daily basis, but doing some kind of detoxification daily, because we're exposed to so many chemicals on a daily basis that even if you are being careful with your food, you're still going to get exposed through with chemicals through other things. Like, think of your skin. Our skin is our largest organ, and it can absorb what is in the environment, especially if we're exposed to toxins like glyphosate, which are water soluble. So there needs to be, yes, deep cleansing, but in general, you want to be doing some kind of detoxification on a daily basis. I mean, personally, I do a detoxification protocol daily that works through my entire body and also works on my gut. So ABC, always be cleansing, right? The common mistakes or cleanse fails that people make is they may do an improper approach, use poor quality supplements. I actually don't work with supplements at all, or are using really, really bad protocols that don't actually work. Or they're doing protocols that are not addressing gut health or parasites, or they're doing a protocol that is done improperly, like in the wrong order. A lot of people want to do parasite cleansing so desperately, but they don't change their diet. They just start taking antiparasitic herbs and then wondering why they don't feel any better why their body is not releasing parasites properly. Or oftentimes, when somebody is unwilling to change their diet and they start taking antiparasitic herbs, they're continuously releasing parasites. Their body never stops releasing parasites because they're continuously replenishing the parasites into their body. It is so important to make sure your elimination pathways are open so that you can properly do heavy metal cleansing, and also so you can do parasite cleansing correctly. Very, very important to use proper binders as well. The biggest mistake that I always see with people is not doing the work for long enough, thinking that you can do a 3-day, a 7-day, or a 30-day cleanse, and that's going to get cover you for the rest of your life. When you think about the fact that you enter into the world with a lot of toxicity in your body, and then you accumulate toxicity daily through your habits, and by the time you're in your fourth, your fifth, or your sixth decade of life, and you've never done this type of work, how can you possibly think that doing something for 3 days or 7 days or 10 days or a month or even 60 days is going to get at everything? It's not. It's going to take some time. I've been doing deep protocols now for myself for 5 years. And every single year, I do one deep protocol that's lasting anywhere from 4 months to 6 months, depending on what I'm working on. And then usually at the end of that protocol, I'll go into a maintenance protocol, and when I feel ready to do another protocol, I go back in and I kind of plan out ahead of time what I want to do, what I want to work on, why I'm doing the protocol. I always have a very, very strong why, so that when it gets challenging, I don't just quit. That's the other thing to remember with this work. Anytime you're working on yourself and you're trying to improve your health, you're going to come up against your own blocks. You're going to come up against challenges. It's going to get hard before it gets easy. But if you have a very, very strong why of what you're doing and why you're doing it, you're going to be willing to go through the tough days. The last protocol I did was 111 days, and I had really hard days. I had days where I had to lay on the couch in my office and just rest. And thankfully, those days just happened to fall on a weekend, so it was good. But I had to dig deep, and I had a very, very strong why as to why I was doing what I was doing. And so I was willing to stick with it, right? So to me, this is not about a quick fix. It's about understanding, number one, how your body works and that it's a lifestyle, right? Certain things are health promoting, certain things are not. The sooner you can recognize what is not health promoting and break up with those habits, the better it's going to be for you. Excuse me. So, in my programs, whether you're working with me one on one or whether you're working in the membership, I always cover nutrition, mindset, movement. Biohacking is also a big part of what I do. And I have a membership for that reason, because I walk people through exactly how to go through the protocol from like, hey, I'm just on a standard American diet and I want to start transitioning my diet and start this work, and walk you step by step through how to go deeper, deeper, deeper into the work over the course of several months. And my big thing with my membership, and even when I work with people one on one, is teaching you, educating you on how your body works, how to properly nourish it, what are the ideal foods, how your digestive system works, what different foods do in the body, so that you have a better understanding of why it's best to avoid certain foods. That it's not about following, certain diet trends. It's really about understanding how your body works and the optimal nutrition is for a human body. Then I also share lots of different types of holistic tools and herbals and biohacks that help support health at the cell level, help support your body, along with detoxification protocols that work. I know that they work because I've seen them work on myself and I've seen them work on other clients. I'm a big fan of being efficient. I think most people are spending money on the wrong things and they're wasting a lot of money. Everything from the money they're spending on their grocery budget, on foods that don't have any nutrition, and they're just buying it because it's sold at a store, not really asking about like the quality of the nutrients, what kind of the quality of the food, what kind of soil is it grown in? Are there actually any living nutrients in the food, or is it dead food? Most people spend a lot of money on dead food. Frankenfood, processed foods, food that is just overcooked, that has no nutritional value in it whatsoever. And most people are wasting their money on supplements that also are poor quality and put a heavy toxic load on the liver, but don't actually do anything for health. So, in my program, and even when somebody works with me one on one, I share with you the best of the best that is out there, and share with you what it's going to do for you. And a lot of my protocols are really about shifting your spending over to the stuff that actually works, and no longer doing the things that don't work, and becoming more efficient with your health budget. I know for myself personally, if I think about what I spend now on my health and what I spent, like, say, 7, 8 years ago when I was still spinning my wheels with hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's, I spend less now. I also spend no time at doctors. I don't spend money getting, expensive tests. I don't spend money on pharmaceuticals. I don't spend my time going to my doctor's office multiple times a year and just sitting and waiting around. And, that's so much time that I save for myself. In the membership, I have multiple different protocols for parasites. We start with the gentlest protocol and then move step by step into deeper protocols. And it's really about having a community of people who are doing the same kind of work, because this work can be very, very intensive. And it is really important to be doing it in community. Healing really happens in community. There's a monthly or a yearly option. You can also get some extra one-on-one support from me if you need. And there's an opportunity to ask questions as well in the membership, so you're supported. So I just want to share a couple of health transformations before I sign off. And in these two transformations, what I want to point out is length of time, right? So this person on the left here is 10 days into her transformation. Her body is obviously starting to release some inflammation, and so you can see a remarkable difference just 10 days in. But now look at what happens when somebody stays consistent with their diet, gut health, detoxification of parasites, heavy metals, chemicals. Like, the body continues to transform, right? So the longer you do it, the more consistent you stay with it, the more committed you are to your own transformation, the more you get to see results, right? And it's not just for women. Men do amazing on this program, right? They go from couch potato to, badasses in the gym. So many women and so many men have skin issues, and skin issues are always related to lymph, gut, and kidneys. So when we're doing these protocols, we're addressing gut, kidneys, liver, and the lymph, and your skin ends up improving as a result. Another image of what happens when you do something over an extended period of time. So yes, every single person I ever work with always starts to notice a difference within the first few days and in the first month. But the longer you are in the program, the more that you stay committed to your own transformation over a long period of time, the more you're going to start to see results. And those results really happen, month by month by month by month. If I think back to my own transformation, it's taken time, and along with the physical transformation, there's been the mental, the emotional. There's been a lot of stuff that I've been able to release emotionally and mentally as well. And along with that, obviously, attachments and addictions to certain patterns of thinking, certain foods, things that just were no longer serving me, allowing myself to come into a place where I was ready to actually let all of those things go. So your body is a powerful healer. And no matter what your current state of health is, if you make up your mind and you say, you know what, I'm going to do whatever is required to get healthy, and you commit to yourself, because it's not about me, it's not about anybody else. It's really about you committing to yourself. If you commit to yourself and you start to improve the quality of your nutrition, start to work on your gut health, detoxification, address parasites, address metals, and start to develop some better habits around diet and lifestyle, bring in some biohacks, I educate on some of those biohacks, then there's no way that your body can't improve. There's no way that your health can't improve. The body is a self healer. And this information that I share in the group program, in Elevate, and even in my one on one coaching, the intention is to give you all the tools and education necessary for you to improve your health and well-being. So I hope that this video has been informative for you. If you do have any questions, please pop them down below. I'm more than happy to answer questions. Make sure that you check the links out in the video caption as well, because there's some information there for you. And I really do hope that you get on the path to your own health transformation, because it is truly life-changing. And our physical body, like once we start to improve the quality of our health and we release, all the toxicity and the heaviness, it's amazing. It's like you become an antenna, a magnet for good things to enter into your life. And I can tell you from my own personal experience, as I've done this work, I've been able to create so much abundance in the quality of my relationships, in my finances, in my business. And all of that came about because I was willing to transform my health. Our physical vessel is our, our home in this lifetime. And the better, stronger, healthier our physical vessel is, the more we can attract more goodness into our life. So thanks so much for being here. Thanks for being a part of my online community. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye for now.